see my baby in the tree?
Yeah, that's your baby in the tree. She's got a funny run, hasn't she?
Oh, she does actually. She doesn't quite run anymore.
She's stopped.
She doesn't stop. Naomi, the other little girl, and Jamie are 3 days apart in age. And Brock is 8 months older than Dean. Just there.
It's nice when all the families get together.
They are, like they get on really well because they're all similar in age, and you know, Sonia and I stay in touch and visit each other, so they're second cousins.
So are you cousins with?
I'm first cousins with Peter, Sonia's husband. Yeah.
How come you never did kids?
Sitting in the climbing in the tree.
Never did kids? Well, the jury's still out on that one.
You're still working on it.
Yeah. It's customary to have them in wedlock. So,
Too afraid to do it out of your mother.
well, not too afraid. Just old-fashioned and don't believe in it myself.
So was your mother as tough with you as she was with the older boys?
No, not particularly. I didn't think. She was. I think she was strict on issues that I didn't think she should have been strict on simple issues, and yet on other things she was had quite liberated views. You know, so it was a bit of a contradiction in that sense.
What do you mean liberated views?
Oh well, she would think she would say that she'd be, when I was younger, she'd say be home by 12 and all this sort of stuff, which is what most kids encounter, whether they're kids from a European background or whether they're Aussie kids. Parents say be home by 12. But as far as the sorts of things that I could do when I was out, she didn't say don't go here, don't get involved in rock and roll, it's not, you know what I mean? I mean, a lot of parents used to say, oh, that's stupid music, those people are dumb, you know, how they would be critical. But my mother never said, no, don't listen to that music or don't have a drink, right? She was a more, I felt, it was everything in its, ban mettre en ariston, you know, like everything in moderation. So it wasn't an issue about being conservative. She's certainly not a conservative person to say, you know, popular music is the work of the devil, as some people would say. I mean, think of Elvis Presley, how they reacted to him. But I reckon if my mother lived in America when Elvis first came out, she wouldn't have said, don't listen to that music, it's wrong. She'd see it as a new type of music that had some energy and excitement. Because I think that's part of her fundamental nature.
So she's got energy and excitement.
Yeah. And I mean, my mother now, as we know, is 90, so when she was 50, I was only, I was still at school. I was only 12 or 14 years old. But I do remember she'd go out and functions, parties, we'd go to dances, you know how you go to the Greek dances and that, Mum would be up dancing. That was in her nature. Other people are more staid and conservative. So I certainly wouldn't categorise her as conservative. I think the father might have been more conservative than Mum. Although from what Mum tells me, and my own observations, he too was, you know, into music and sort of having a good time, under the definition of under the sort of 1950s or 60s definition of having a good time. You know, that changes too. So if you've been talking to the other boys and they're saying she was strict, she may have been strict with them in the sense that that was it when Canberra was smaller and as children of Greek parents growing up in a less tolerant community, she may have felt she had to be stricter with them than with me, because when I was growing up, being quite a bit younger than my eldest brother, and George and my sister and that, quite a bit younger. By the time I was growing up, the society had become more tolerant and more open, and therefore she probably didn't have to be so concerned that I'd be sullied by the wider community. You know, that's just my view of it.
Were you sullied by the Australian community?
I know. I even encountered a bit of some prejudice when I was growing up. You know, far more than what a child of Greek parents would encounter growing up today. You know, I mean, we were called wogs and wops and all of that stuff. That wouldn't happen today. You know, maybe the Asians encounter the type of prejudice that we did when I was growing up was probably now reserved for Asians. You know, that's the new generation of people that Australians and even us as Australian-born Greeks have got to come to terms with. I mean, prejudice is not an exclusively Australian failing. I mean, Europeans are quite capable of prejudice against Asians or blacks and so forth. But we're living in Canberra. I think it's a bit more tolerant of those sort of things.
Did you get your business genes from your father or your mother?
Well, my father wasn't a driven business person. I think he was a person who he wanted to do well in business and keep his. He had a very good reputation as not only as a business purpose, as fundamentally as a good bloke. I mean, I've met many Australians who knew him, and they're obviously a lot older than me, and all of them, I've never heard a bad word about my father. Not that if people did have a bad word, they wouldn't set out to tell you, but I know from the way they talk that they genuinely liked him. You know, I knew your father Harry was a good bloke. You know, a real white man. They don't say that unless they mean it. You know. So, but he wasn't a high energy business person, but he understood the merits of having, you know, good quality shop, a good shop that works well. He could see opportunities. He could, you know, he was. What else could you do if you didn't have a formal education? He wasn't going to go and join the public service or become an accountant or a lawyer. So he had to provide for his family in the way he could, which was running a shop, and then after that he bought some property. But he didn't have any visions of becoming a, you know, super wealthy person. He thought that, you know, once you're comfortable, I think he felt that's probably enough, and get on with your life and raise your families and the rest of it. But I think my mother, who had an uncle in Sydney who was quite not driven, but he was very sort of mercantile sort of a bloke. He was a bit of a wheeler dealer, and it was her side of the family, I think, that was more inclined towards that. You know, I mean, I don't know that I'm telling tales out of school. I think Mum has often said that had not the war intervened, Dad had in the back of his mind that it wouldn't be a bad idea to go back to Greece, which was a sentiment of most Greek immigrants that came to Australia. They really were coming here to set themselves up, to make their pile, so to speak, and then go back to Greece maybe. And that was in Dad's mind. The war intervened, so it really never became an issue after that. And by that time, everybody was entrenched then. You know, most of his family were starting to grow up and were going to school and the rest of it, so he just carried on here. But Mum certainly is a person who values the fruits of enterprise. You know, there's no doubt about that. That's my perception. I don't know what the others have said to you on that subject.
Gosh, it's noisy in here. What's the matter? It's outside on the table.
Is this appetising or more?
Ακόμη δεν άρχισα. Μου λες ακόμη τρώγω. Ωραίο.
Can you join them
Μια ώρα
out?
η λειτουργία πιο
Do what you want. You've been there, done that. You don't have to listen to anyone. Oh, Ella. Another fun round of bingo. Oh, you've succumbed to peer group pressure.
staying. I'm staying.
No, I was only
I'm staying. Of course.
We're the future. Stay with us.
Yeah.
En je cafeteria.
child is crying. What you?
Well, anyway, so you with the orange too?
No, video off while we're eating.
Well, I just.
Then talk to them. If there's a lot of yes, it's great to have it. I won't be help to all of us. Amen. Amen to that. Good health. Cheers. Cheers. Good health. Is it a nice drop cup?
It should be.
Cheers everyone. Nice to have you. It was lovely to go over to my Lipon, but Nike. Nice to have you here. Manuel Stadigasu.
Have you got a milk for us, Sonia? Did you bring one the milk for? No. There's nothing for them to be adding anymore.
I'll lick it off. My husband does love to change it.
Gotcha.
Myself in the TV screen.
Yeah. You okay? So who are these?
I'll get the start. That's Sophie, that's Brock, and that's my little brother Dean. Let's want to roll down. And that's my little brother. Push yourself off.
You like him, do you?
Now for the big finale. I'm gonna roll down so fast. Ready? Set. Now move. Get over there. I'm gonna kick you in the face. Ow! Oh my holy yeah, this one. Look at the big one. Look at this big one over here. Look, Scruff. Go look at this. That's over here. Go look over here. Hey, Nick, come here. Ow.
Oh, you gotta see yourself, don't you?
Let me see myself. Get out! No, you. Are you going to take a picture of them? We can! Shoot me. And bash bomb. Let's go what Sophie's going.
Peter, behind you. Say hello. Say, I love you, young lady. Say it.
I've got a disc. It's compatible with John. Oh, don't waste it. Your father will tell you that's $40 worth.
40?
$40 worth.
That'd be $100.
That's $100 worth. This is lovely Grange that Emmanuel brought us.
Did you shake hands with Uncle Con? Shake hands with Uncle Con?
What's Papu?
Feed it, darling.
What's Papu?
He's making faces. What's Papu John? What's Papu John? What is he?
He's a piss bar.
What's Papu John? He's a cranky bugger.
Put a sad piece.
Yeah, but I only just started.
And there was plenty of room. So we had it up still. And it's all stayed. If you get to the whole way. Oh, right. It's used like it was. But I really so like it's the
Quite good. And they have a lot of stuff in Athens. So we keep it, for the roses. But a lot of them clip.
Κοντάσου άλλος.
Να πιο άλλες όλα που
Yeah, I think they do want most people.
He takes home, from what I read, it's like a $5,000 a day sort of contract.
And I was able to see the house.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Is that 5,000? Is that
Yeah, they're going through a real
Go and buy a house, don't forget you done. Bring your
Say hello. Hello. Usually when we go shopping, she greets every person that comes past. Jamie, say hello. Hello.
Oh yeah, you saw I see the one. What was this? In the 200 metres.
He was surprised himself. He looked around and said,
Isn't that like where they dance as well?
that was the thing on door going
20 years. Ellen, when I jumped out of my lounge chair or whatever when I was watching.
They dress each other. Red Zimi. Red. Tikanis. And it's really, really cute. And they speak in Greek. They write in Greek, but with English letters, of course, and it's extremely funny. So I thought he'd enjoy Wog Boy. Have you seen it?
Yeah, of course.
It's a great show.
I
It's
did
quite
enjoy
fun. I like the fellow who was...
He's quite family,
Oh,
you enjoy this even more.
yes, he will actually. I do miss Harry.
I'm just telling you.
But yes, yes. You know what he told me? Harry, darling, I'm happy you're over there. And Harry did tell me, you told me, didn't you, that when you talk to me and I say, as long as you're enjoying yourself, son, then you think that that's about as good as it gets. So keep that in mind. So enjoy yourself. And I'll be really glad when you come home to us. Anyway, I hope everything's fine over there, darling. And I hope you enjoy this video. And you're probably thinking, thank God I'm away from that madhouse. No, it's really nice, sweetie. And we're thinking of you. And you know Yaya's very, very fond of you, darling. Anyway, my love, I hope you come over soon. Because it's we're getting too old to travel. I can't think of anything else that we talk to each other every day almost. Yeah, oh, not every day. No. A couple of times a week he'll call his family. So that's nice. His sisters. And yeah, really good. He's enjoying London. He's pops over to Wales and Prague and I think it's wonderful for a young man to do all that. Did you, Emmanuel? You didn't? No. Okay.
They're all guilty, mate. All guilty of the offence of breaking this Dutch box. Except my grandson, of course, he wasn't involved at all.
Uncle John.
No, you're in the middle of it. Only my grandson was innocent.
Because I love Dean. He's really gentle and he wouldn't do that, would you, darling?
Coolers and my grandson had nothing to do with the breaking of this. It was all those other cousins and they're all the delinquents from Bill Connor and so on.
No, I've told Brock I'll buy him a new Spider-Man who is lost. Look at Jamie looking for him. Jamie!
That's all right, Eleni.
No, she's not allowed to break it apart.
He's another Spider-Man.
She's very gentle.
She yours, is she?
Oh, yeah.
She's my granddaughter. She's very gentle. And They are.
Put a foot in it.
They all.
Now, away from the
They
hedge
are the
now.
great grandchildren, and there are another 4 in
They're by
Greece.
the
Another 4 in Greece, huh?
toilet. Toilet.
And then it's called pruning. It's all right. That's the fine. Oh no, don't. No, it'll be found, darling. The gardener can find it. I know who it belongs to.
Oh, Dila.
Here we are. Some nice goodies here and here and here. And oh, it tilted a little, so I just tilted it back. This is mustalipia, made with grape juice. Traditional sweet, which is very easy, and for those of us who are weight conscious, which leaves me out.
Eventually, with your physical after effects and all. Only it doesn't affect your liver or your lungs.
Who's got time? Manuel's Sofia. Well, no, I don't.
Στο βέλο, ας το μάκι, θα γίνει να φτιάξει στο γοδί. Δεν του κάνω smooth, τους αρέσει
Εδώ είναι η Καρίνη.
ψωμί θεία, ψωμί. Δεν το
Εδώ. I don't think I've seen a photo of him. You remember him?
Ο Καρίνης,
And he had these highly polished black bacon shoes, and he'd sit, went up, really up, get ready.
You came out, when did you come in Australia?
came to Canberra, we took him rabbishing and he came with a full shower. Ο Καρίνης είναι εδώ πέρα μάμου.
I don't remember him coming out.
His wife was an attractor.
Α, ναι.
No, you're talking about George or something. I'm talking about the father. You're talking about George.
George came to
Go on, the journalist.
Yeah.
Ναι.
Yeah, I know. You're talking about Leo, he's right.
Yeah.
Ναι, ναι.
You're
She
talking
came
about
to
his
Australia.
father. Oh, no.
Excuse me, Jim, where's the cafe?
Να, έχω χρόνια. She came,
Well, that's what I'm telling you, these bloody hot.
she came, I think my mom was φωτασίας with me. Δεν είχε θεία Λία. Τώρα επιτρέφτηκε η θεία. Η Λία. Δεν ήρθε μετά που επιτρέφτηκε, δεν ήρθε μετά στο σπίτι με, what do you call us, δίπλες. Well, I haven't heard.
Where is she?
Πέθανε η Λία.
She's asking. Δεν άκουσα.
Στο last ταξίδι δεν παρουσιάστηκε.
Δεν έχω ακούσει αλλιώς.
You know that she's only doing well, don't you? In a very wealthy Greece.
Η θεία Λία. But she's away.
Talk about after George.
Ναι, τότε, αλλά χώρισε.
What relation was he?
Εδώ είναι που κατεβήκαμε. He was your first cousin. His mother. Mum. And your grandmother.
Sisters. And your father.
They had 4 sisters, you know that?
Yeah.
How many sisters did they have?
4. Ναι, μισό.
It's Sia's birthday. Birthday. Και ξέρεις κάτι? Γιορτάζει like you too tomorrow.
Give her your birthday.
Come on, give me your big thing.
All right, give the shoes. Here, give her your birthday colour. This here.
Not my, this one. Yeah, yeah.
That must be me,
Shoes on, please.
All right, all right.
Shoes on, please.
Where's this man? Has this man got a little... Oh, there it is. Little camera.
Here I am.
Yeah, you better learn.
Don't take any much alike they are. Grandfather, son, and grandson.
They're too small.
That's Jim.
Watching Spider-Man.
Yeah?
He watched it back and he went going.
Come on, put it on.
That's Harry.
Or Baba.
That's your dad there. Can't mistake your father had the white cheek. Joe.
It's a wedding photo.
Is that Mary?
That's me.
With that fear lady?
That's you? That's Katina. That's that photo over there. My dad and Chris. That's your mum there. That's your dad.
So is that Jim? Or Jim is your yours? Στο κόημιν.
You have to put my grandchildren there because I've got four there. Put them together. So I've got twins. That'll be nice. That'll be nice.
Your father came up to have a look around.
Because you should act now. Because we'll be sorry later on if we haven't done it. That's right. Yes. Did you see that? Have you taken the photo up there? All there? In the family room. She's got everything. She's got mum and us and everything there. We're talking about 40 years, aren't we? Yes, yes. Yes, it does. A lifestyle.
No, you're talking now.
Wait a minute, put a few in, Manuel.
No, all I said to put it in the other table. I'll leave it here. Sorry. Excuse me.
No, take them over there. I'll put a few here. Yeah.
That's all right.
What's love? Do it a few.
Εδώ είμαστε στην πίσω πόρτα του Κασάπινου.
Η Κέτη, και εσύ,
Do you know the
Strange so hard.
That door was still there when I started to put the shop. The back lane.
Εκεί είμαστε στο Χάνιμον είμαστε.
We think?
Στο Χάνιμον.
The honeymoon. Oh. That's interesting. What Mum was saying. My dad did a porcellier like I used to do with my dad. There was a lot of groups in there who had shop, but they weren't there. They didn't have them.
Ιδίως οι εκπροσωπικοί κανένας δεν είχε δικές τους θέσεις.
My dad was looking at finding sorry, back then. But he was second cousins with his father. I didn't know that.
Your dad?
My dad and your dad were second cousins.
Ναι.
And your dad just came down to see my father. The dad came to
Αυτή η φωτογραφία είναι από την Ελλάδα.
Είναι school photo of mine. Και εδώ έχω ένα τρως κάπου πέρα που δεν έχω.
These are photos of Maori.
Αυτό είναι που...
Ναι. Και ποιος το κόλλησε το cross εκεί, δεν είναι. There.
That's Mum there.
Yeah, I know, but you shouldn't put a cross on a fire.
Oh, just a moment. You remember?
That's me.
Ναι. Έκανες περιβόλι με τον πατέρα σου. Αυτό είναι από κάτω από την περάδα.
Yeah. When the photographer developed that photo, he said it's a miracle. There's a cross appeared above this student's head.
Στο σχολείο σου.
Ναι, και εγώ είμαι εκεί πάνω.
I took that photo. That photo was taken when Mum was in Greece.
You think so?
Well, I'll tell you what, in that photo there, μοιάζει, η Νίνα σε μοιάζει. Η Νίνα, Νίνα. Yeah, in that shot.
Υπάρχει είναι σε εκεί.
In that shot.
Got Mum's eyes.
Μπακαρέικο.
Εδώ. Αγόρασε το Αγίου Δημητρίου.
Doesn't she look like your mother? I think so in that shot.
Εγώ δεν την έχω δει αυτή η φωτογραφία.
Isn't it gorgeous?
What a lovely photo. What is that, John?
Oh, this should be 1915
Το σχολείο.
or something.
Το σχολείο.
Ναι. Isn't that a lovely shot? Ναι. Την άλλη φωτογραφία που έχει πέρα με τα παλιά.
There's Tialinica with, that'll be...
Is that Peter there?
That's Peter, that'll be Peter. Fanny? Move back. I don't know, I think, I look like... No, that's me. Wait a minute. No, that's Con. That's Con and that's me. Yeah. That's me and that's Con. No. That's me, Mary, Fanny Caroni, Con, and Chris and Peter.
Doesn't Chris look like his grandson, George's son?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that amazing? It's really identical. And his own son, and George. And he looks like George. George's own son.
Yeah, but George's son.
Oh, well, George, yeah, Chris's grandson.
Yeah, but it's just really amazing.
Oh, it's George Catholic.
No.
Not George, Catholic Lake. He's the bloke who had the supermarket.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I went fishing with this bloke.
Yeah,
Which,
that's one
Jim.
of the
Jim. You got a brother, Jim?
That's him.
That's Jim. Why's he got George? Well, that's lost him on a building block.
Fell off the roof.
He fell off the roof at home.
Daniel.
I reckon.
Is he really? He didn't tell me, but he told me he was playing.
Did you know them, Peter?
They were fishing up the stairs.
That's a few you.
Photos when I was
Mum.
growing up. Well, I took it to Brisbane.
What's in it?
But at least in Singapore they've got a couple of rooms for smokers.
Steady on.
It's a creme caramel.
But he's got their name for the postman. Milk the others. Beat the Persians 1474 BC. That's how well he knew his Greek history. Oh yes, but that's what he did. He reckoned he would beat win the election. He put his name down as Miltiades. He's in the paper now. He's in the paper now. Sophia read it. Ptolemaic the Sydney paper. What? Actually, actually, we were there, and Whistler was on the listening on the phone to the commentary about the thing. And I said to Mum, you know who that is over there? Mum didn't see him, but they've got Doc Whitlam. He went over, and he said, talk, and he said, Mum said, right, and he said, not dara. He said the word not dara. He said, originated in the Byzantium Empire. He knew the history as well as he said. And he did, he was...
But she paid.
Might have wanted to be.
Is it still up?
No, you can ring. You can ring and ask to see. And they'll tell you what day you can come and they'll bring it up. The writing or the whole coach? You have to put the almonds on the side.
Mary! 90 candles?
Yes, I put them all on last night.
And we don't doubt your counting.
Because we're not going to try again. What did I have? 24 candles, 4 lots of 24 candles, and then I took out 6, so that left me with 19.
Are we ready to go inside?
No, it was. Mum supervised. She doesn't trust me.
What are you talking about?
The candles, the number of candles.
16 candles.
Did you follow a particular colour pattern?
No.
I
tried
Are there
to.
90?
I tried. Yes, there are. I tried to get the colours sort of going: white, pink, blue, yellow, white, pink, blue, yellow, white, and then oh man, it was tired. I was tired. It was late.
Mary, you ruined that corner.
Oh my god.
3 picks in a row.
Take them all out. Start again. Now it looks beautiful. Yeah, I hope it's
Are they going to come in?
Great
Yes,
grandchildren. We're all her
definitely.
grandchildren. You mean her great grandchildren. Thank you.
All right, darling.
Oh, look at the vultures.
Okay.
Shall we move it in now?
Yeah, are we taking it to there or inside?
Inside, yeah. Did you put those onions on there?
You better get the box to help buy those kids.
You need people like one in these,
What about it? Well, you're I don't have to tell you. Right, pure solid. Picked it up and it went sliding.
Auntie Nina's got to do the order.
So there's
Auntie Nina, you've got to check this. I just said that. It's your job.
Yeah, we'll get everyone in. So the little one's found his Bugsy Martin.
You can have one, Lana. You can have to use one.
Mary Moore, come on. No, just find it. You actually found it.
What do you need?
That's it, James. Take one candle there and you like the rest.
I've got the biggest one. You're doing great. Do you want to go down that area and I'll...
Listen to my baby.
Εσύ που θα καπνίσεις να βελτίσεις με τη μία,
Oh my God, the temperature of the room's gone up.
Oh, too many candles.
You can spoil the
Too many candles for Peter.
Από πού θα αρχίσει? Δύο δεν είναι να κάνω. Ίσως να ανάψουμε το άλλο.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jan. Happy birthday to you.
Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray!
Ένα δεν έχει ανάψει, κυρία.
Όλοι να blow out. Come on, everybody.
Νομίζω ο Τίνος και ο Πίτας το σβήσανε. Βέβαια.
Dean, who's got a birthday?
Unless you want to make a speech.
No, thanks,
I've never known Yaya to be short of a word.
Why not? Mum's getting ready.
ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests.
Benya. She could also just say Benya.
Αγαπητά μου παιδιά, εγγόνια, δυσεγγόνια, αδέρφια, ξαδέρφια και όλοι οι συγγενείς. Κάπως εμπλημμόνια. Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για το πάρτι που μου δώσατε και σας εύχομαι και εσείς να φτάσετε στα χρόνια μου και παραπάνω και να χαρείτε παιδιά και εγγόνια.
Και δυσεγγόνια.
Thank you very much.
Και δυσέγγωνα.
Και να φτάσουμε τα χρόνια.
Το μυαλό δεν πρόκειται να τα πούμε.
Το μυαλό σας από πού το πήρατε? You want to eat some cake? All right, then. The other one will organise it now.
Come over here, girls.
I want one with the words. I don't want any with the words.
You want the words? So does Dee want the words?
Come up here, but I've got the other camera on at the back.
I wonder if we could try to get one big photo.
Come around.
Couldn't it take everything?
I just
Come on, everyone. What I think we should do is
No, what I was going to say, I think we should have the right to respond, or the opportunity to respond. Can I? Well, I will, and then Jim and Manuel and whoever may wish to. Can I?
Was I cheeky?
You're allowed to be, Min.
What way?
And you can respond too. Because
Oh, no.
female, I'm sure I could understand like that.
Well, all I would, if I get the opportunity to say so, all I want to say is that it's a great pleasure, obviously, for all of us to have Mum here today to celebrate her 90th birthday. And we have the total spectrum of Mum's family here, from Jim, her eldest born, obviously, right down to Manuel, her youngest. And in between the others who are, well, let's say, various degrees of significance. And then we have Mum's first grandchild, Peter Caruzos, a fine example of a man over here, who has been a good grandson, and he's the first grandson and a good grandson. Right down to, and I've said all this simply to get my little bloke into the story here, right through the little Peter. So everybody in between, there's Rob, there's Dean, there's this, there's that, and there's all the others, Leah, Barissa, who else is there? My daughter Helen and my daughter Mary, and unfortunately Harry who's in London couldn't be here, but yeah, he can sit with Uncle Jack. Uncle Jack's just moving in over here to sit next to my son Harry, and Mum's grandson Harry is in London, and he's been ringing over the last 2 days, but he rang this morning and said, I'll try and ring later, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning, I want to go to bed. So he's gone to bed. And then we have son-in-law Con Caruzos, who is the father of the first grandson.
What about Nina, who's the mother of the first?
Well, she fits in between the eldest born Jim and the youngest Emmanuel. So we don't have, but I think it's fair to say that this is a large family, and you can see that they've got no manners at all, because I'm trying to speak and everybody's interjecting and saying their own thing. But when you look at the photo over there of Mum at her wedding, you'll see that there she is, with the saying is, I'll stand by my man. Dad's sitting and Mum's standing. And that's how it was when she married Dad, and they established their family in Canberra. And I think a lot of the name that we enjoy in Canberra, our good name that we enjoy in Canberra, is certainly in no small measure to Mum's and Dad's contribution. Yeah, I'll come to Mum's and Dad's contribution, and the fine Grange wine that we drank today, and the nice premises in which we've enjoyed this is a great deal to Mum's and Dad's initial contribution. So we recognise all that, The other thing, of course, is we've got Uncle Jack here, who has always been a very significant part of the family. I remember when he was down in the Highgate and he used to eat some massive ice cream sundaes. He used to love those ice cream sundaes.
What about the thing he
And-
was putting you on the horse?
I was just going to say, Uncle Jack put me on this horse. It was a heck of a thing. It wouldn't have... I don't know that horse really would have qualified for pet food, but nevertheless, Uncle Jack put us on this horse. He had a mandolin and he used to take us down to the Molonglo River, just down next to the powerhouse. There was a footbridge that went over to towards Campbell, and it crossed the Molonglo, and Uncle Jack used to take us down there and we'd throw these melons around and carry on. And he'd be sitting on the bank of the river with his little mandolin singing, "Oh, give me land, lots of land beneath the starry skies." That was with a Greek accent, of course. "Don't fence me in, give me land, lots of land below the starry skies above. Don't fence me in." He knows the song.
When I came here, you were playing and then you were telling me to sing in the place and then
He started to sing.
yeah,
So,
and I was telling you were wrong, you know. And I was
Well, this all
you
started, we've ended up with Uncle Jack, but we really started to talk about Mum, and I mentioned to Manuel earlier about, he said, what sort of a mother was she? I said, well, everybody loves their mother, so it doesn't matter. My Aunt Katie in Greece once said, German mothers are the best in the world. I said, well, that's what the Germans think. And as far as we're concerned, our mum is the best mother in the world. And I think she had a bit of a tough time because there were 5 of us, and we weren't the easiest, of course, to look after. She's tolerant. But all round, she did a pretty good job considering the circumstances. So without any further continuation on my part, I think I'd just like to wish Mum a happy birthday, 90th, and I'd like to ask Brother Jim, perhaps, and Manuel, if they'd like to say a couple of words.
Over to Jim.
Thank you.
It is hot. It is hot. I think you said enough. Thank you.
I tend to agree. He's spoken about everything that you could think about. But being the eldest, I knew Mum the longest.
Of course.
Or Mum
You
knew me the
remember
longest.
when you were born?
No, I don't remember when I was born.
That's really bad.
I do remember where I was born. I was told where I was born, outside the doctor's place in Giles Street. Mum was too busy at the shop. Betty Manny, Betty Manny, Betty Manny, And when we arrived outside the doctor's place in the taxi cab, he was busy getting dressed or shaved or whatever, and after and I was born in the cab outside his place.
And that's it, the same.
And Uncle Manuel, where was he best of?
I was born in a cab too.
Outside the hospital steps.
First and the last.
First and last.
No,
You wanted to come out in a hurry.
a lot of credit's got to be given to and to Dad, because he had to put up with Mum, and I think that's a pretty tall order. because we're all tarred with that one brush, and as our wives would know, and one of the son-in-laws would know, that the Natara soy is a pretty vigorous lot. Yeah, well, yes, you can.
So one of the grandchildren broke my boss head.
Don't blame that grandchild.
Even going back further than that, we're happy to have one of the Vavakaris family represented here, because they had a big influence on Mum and on Dad. They checked him out when he was wanting to marry Mum, and they've had a big influence on me and on our whole family generally. And talking about box elders is not what our grandchildren have done to the box elder outside. Is what I did to Manuel's mother when I broke about 2 dozen eggs on a front veranda, and a couple of those tinted windows that they had on the front.
Red light windows.
Anyway, she put up with me years going down there, but Mum put up with a lot too. We gave her torrid time at times, and she stood the test of time all right, 90 years old and still got all the faculties. It's a pretty big thing.
You'll be getting a phone call tomorrow morning.
And I think you should say to the grandchildren, the first time, that we've had to put up with you guys as fathers.
Are you saying that you want to have a little... Anyway, it's been nice for everybody to come and it's been a good day. Kina takatostisis, Mum, with all our hearts.
Και ευχόμεθα και εσείς να φτάσετε τα χρόνια της και να τα περάσετε.
Oh, good girl.
Now you're going to tell the story about Mum drinking that grain, because if she didn't drink, we would have had another bottle in, you know?
Oh, that's a good one. As long as she didn't put in the cooking, you're right.
Yeah, the story about the grains, it's a short story but a good one. I came home and there was a empty bottle of grains in the kitchen, and I said to Mum, who drank this bottle of wine? I didn't say who drank the grains, who drank this bottle of wine? And Mum said, I drank it. And I said, do you know what these wines are worth? $300 or $400 a bottle. And Mum said, what, aren't I good enough to have a bottle of wine? So there was no answer to that. Anyway, there's not much else I can say, Mum, besides what Jim said, Mum. Best mother in the world. The only mother, but the best.
You're proud.
Manuel, I want you smiling. Manuel. Right. Okay.
Coffee time, sweets time. One birthday cake.
Birthday cake's in the
I'll take the cake inside and I've got all down for
There's your
A lot of them are my family. That's my Uncle Jack. And who's that with Heather?
It's going to be really strange talking to you. Edit this? Yeah. Okay, because then if I start to waffle on, you can just cut it out. Yeah. Okay. I don't mind that I'm smoking either. They all know. Yeah, Lenny is a grandmother. I suppose I was quite a spoiled child, as we all were, and she never used to let me get my own way. And she was strict on all of us. And I remember one particular time I ran away. Well, I didn't really. I ran underneath the piano. I could hear her and Uncle Manuel outside calling for me, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be in so much trouble. And then she popped her head under the piano and laughed, and there I was, and it was all over fakir, which is a food that I just can't stand. But other than that, she's always been tough on, I suppose, everyone. You know, everyone always respects her, but she's tough on everyone. She was going to put it all in the tripa, which is just like, it was a little hole in her kitchen, in the cupboard. And when we were naughty, we were all going to go in the tripa. And it was just like, oh my God, that. And I unfortunately didn't know my grandfather to know what he was like and to see them together or anything like that. But yeah, she's tough, but she's fair. She also stands up for you, and I know she's the biggest fan of the family and the biggest fan of all of us.
She stood up for you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Over what?
I'm very passionate about my animals, and my Uncle Manuel was ribbing me one time about my animals, and I was getting really upset. And she told him, that's enough. And he just like, okay. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even young then. I was like 20 or something. So, but, yeah, she's always been tough, and I just remember everyone listening to her, and I mean, she's still with it now. She still has them all under control, and sort of has an input in everything, and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, but she's proud of us all, and you know that. Like, you know, she was always proud. I used to go over there when I used to wait for my Uncle Manuel, and I'd have my cigarettes in my pocket, and you just think, oh God, but she never said anything, and it was just strange. Brocky, don't cut that, mate. Uncle John will kill you. So yeah.
Get off the bushes.
So you got kids?
No.
So you and Harry the only bachelors?
Yeah, basically. Oh no, my younger sister. Oh, she's got a partner, but yeah, both single. I live out on my little farm, and yeah, I have a great lifestyle. Can't argue with that. Can't complain about anything. Got to say.
Has she been out to the farm?
Yeah, she came out. She hasn't come out a lot. I've invited her, but it's a bit hard. She's sort of, when I'm out of town, she can't drive, and came out for my birthday party last year, and two grannies sat on my porch together. It's really cute. So, it's, yeah, she's just always been there at all the parties and everything like that, and always telling me that I shouldn't smoke and that I should find some nice boy to get married to and all that sort of thing. But I still smoke and I'm still single, so...
So come you found a nice boy?
Why haven't I found a nice boy? No nice boys to find.
You're working on it?
No, not even. Given up on that too. Yeah, if it happens, it happens. I mean, look at Uncle Manuel. He's still single. Nothing wrong with him. So, it's fine.
Just one more question.
Yes.
I always wondered where you got your toughness from.
Toughness, me personally, or?
You personally.
Oh, I don't know that I'm particularly tough.
Softies at heart, really.
Yeah.
But that's on deep down. But on the surface, you're as tough as nails.
Oh, well, at the
business, the way you...
At the expense of disagreeing with you. Oh no, I think born out of, on the one hand, a sense of fair play is a sort of a determination to get what is justifiably or rightly yours. You know, I mean, you don't. There's no good being mealy-mouthed about things and let people walk all over you. And to be tough and resilient to defend your entitlements is not toughness. It's just a good sense of fairness. You know.
There's an inherent trait there, though. That is such an Ataris trait. I think it's come down from the grandparents, and the sons have it, and the grandchildren have it too.
So you so you can sit in yourself.
Yeah, like I can. I mean, without. I mean, obviously not in the league of these guys, but I certainly can hold my own, and I have to thank the way I was brought up with that. I can. You know, my bosses and people I deal with are all sort of big business people, and they don't faze me or anything like that because they've been around it.
Yeah.
Been around it all the time, and it's not a big deal. So, and people sort of go, oh, you know, oh my gosh, that's such and such. It's like, yeah, no problem. Doesn't faze me at all because I've grown up.
Yeah,
with it.
if the word toughness in the question is in its nicest way or its sort of true meaning,
yeah,
not being bullies or intimidating, I'll own up to toughness. It's like saying somebody's a tough athlete. You know, they can run and they can go through the threshold of pain. That doesn't make them a bad person. It makes them sort of a resilient person. And if you're tough in business, it means that, you know, you're a hard in the best interpretation. You're a hard person to put one over. That doesn't make you unfair. It just makes you canny and streetwise, you know.
I hear it a lot when I'm with the work I do. I'm involved in property, and all the time it's like, oh, you're an Ataris. Which one are you related to? And you know, with your Yaz photo in the magazine, it's like, oh, your granny's in a picture, and you know, things like that. And it's been really good in that respect. But then again, if you've got any enemies out there, it's probably not a good thing. But I think people respect the name, and you've got to prove it still though. It's not like you can just waltz along and that's come down. You know, people who knew my grandmother when she was sort of active in business, and my granddad, and so it's all.
Yeah, no, I said earlier to you, Emmanuel, that Dad was a very, very well-liked person in the business community and in the wider community. They just saw him as a good bloke, a good-hearted person, and they could see that, you know, he did well in business without being sneaky or unkind, and so I certainly wouldn't think anybody had ascribed toughness to him. But if
Respectable.
yeah, but if this toughness thing, without dwelling on it too much, is about you know, sort of defending your rights and sort of getting ahead in a in an acceptable way, yeah, we plead guilty to that. And if we'd done it the wrong way, if we'd been tough and unfair and sort of sneaky, I think we wouldn't have had but we wouldn't have the respect, I think, that we've inherited from our parents. I mean, I don't think there's a door being closed to me because somebody said, "Oh, you blokes are too tough." No, bugger you blokes are, and your old man was tough, and this, that, and the other. And yet there are people in business where the generally accepted view of them in the business community is, "Oh, well, don't deal with him. He's a real hard bastard," you know. Well, I'm aware, I'm sure that that's never been a criticism directed against us, you know.
I actually valued a house recently, and it was an older couple just sold their home that everyone had grown up in, the children and the grandchildren, and I gave her my business card, and she asked me if I was, you know, who my granddad was, and she was just so thrilled to have met me because she knew my granddad, and it was unbelievable. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it," and he, you know, he was such a good friend, and it was, yeah.
He was ahead of his time, Dad, in terms of the fact that he was here in the late 20s and early 30s, and he fitted into the community. He played bowls. He was a patron of the Causeway Rovers, which were a rugby league team back in those days. He got involved in the St John's Ambulance. He was certainly not this insular sort of Greek guy, which was the common perception of the Australians, where all these European communities stuck together and that's why they did so well, you know, they all helped each other. Dad wasn't like that. He certainly wanted to play his part in the Greek community, and he did. He was president of the community, and he was involved in the church and the rest of it. But as far as his role, you know, the way he saw himself fitting into the wider Australian community, he embraced it, and he played bowls, as I said before. He was a member of, I think, South Canberra or the Forest Bowling Club, one of those, back in the 30s. So he didn't sort of go down to his shop, make a big pile of money and go home and sort of sit at home counting his pennies. He was out doing things as a young man in the 90s.
Yeah, I was counting the pennies.
Yeah. Well, Mum felt that it was her role as a mother to establish a good future for her kids and see that they prosper. Same as what a father would normally do, but it's sort of a matriarchal thing to sort of bring all that stuff together, because the breadwinner's too busy winning the bread, so they've got to do the other role. But Mum played two roles. She was a breadwinner as well, because she worked with Dad in the shop. She worked alongside of Dad. Besides raising kids, she also made a contribution to the actual day-to-day running of the shop by being there.
You can tell these two aren't shy of the camera, can't you?
Well, he's taken the lead now. He's on television every day. Yeah. Almost every day.
Yeah.
So you guys work together well? I mean, that must have been part of your mother's thing too.
Oh yeah, we've been there. Manuel's taking it a bit easier now, being a single man without the responsibilities of, firstly, a wife, which would
Be careful.
really account for 70% of one's energy and financial expenditure.
Oh, I don't know yet.
Everybody in their life at some point comes to the stage where they say, well, what's it all about? And it's a different time for different people, you know. And it can be an earlier time for me, because really, to lead to my lifestyle is less demanding. You know, I don't have a family, a wife and kids to sort of
I'll be your daughter.
Adopt me.
Yeah. you know, parents have to educate their kids. Expensive to educate your kids.
Putting things over and no problem.
I've been doing that for a while.
So you're taking it easy, huh?
Well, easier than I was, yeah. Easier than I was. Before, John and I used to work together in the office, like every day we'd be there to deal with the everyday things. Now, I've got some outside interests, and well, I don't want to elevate them too high, but things that interest me that it's harder to do when you're sort of committed to have to go to work each day. So rather than try and compromise doing a reasonable job in the office, I've said, well, the fair thing to do is to sort of phase down in the office and go out and pursue these other things. And essentially, I mean, I personally like to, I like people contact, I like travelling. You know, I haven't travelled anything like the amount that I would like to. I mean, I'd like to go to South America, but you can't do that if you're committed to a job. It's just not fair. You can't be just saying the person you work with, well, I'm off for 3 months. Week here and week there is nothing. But you can't do the sort of things that I want to do in just a week here, week there.
And what about you? You've moved into the business?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So there's...
I don't know.
But
if
she's
it
getting
is
a
chance.
grounding in real estate
Yeah.
and valuation and the sort of things that are important if you're going to pursue a career in property.
Yeah.
So is your grandmother putting pressure on you at all?
Well, I have to admit, none of the family say anything about what I've done. I think it's, yeah.
He means pressure work-wise, I think.
Oh,
not domestically.
no, there's no pressure at all. And I suppose I've always felt that there's been a pressure to go into property. I've always been interested in it, but there never actually has been. It's something that's always dreamt up and things like that. So, yeah, no, there's never been a pressure, but it's just a path that I've chosen to take, and it'll enable me to do what I want to do and the lifestyle that I hopefully,
I guess
that
you've
I've
got
got.
too, you know.
Well, that's a fairly sexist remark.
Well, and the guitarist mob, look at your sister.
Yeah.
She wasn't expected to go into work, was she?
No,
Into
but
business,
she
into-
got married when she got married. It was nearly conventional wisdom amongst all people not to work, for a woman not to work, particularly if the husband could afford to meet their commitments without two people in the household working. That wasn't just a Greek thing; it was a general thing. My sister got married in, I think, about 1962 or 63, something like that. When I think the majority of wives didn't work. They might do a bit of part-time, and then from sort of the early 80s onwards, just about every wife has had to work to make ends meet. That's just the reality of life, you know.
But it's different now. Like, I don't think, you know, one thing that's probably been quite evident in our childhood was that, you know, nothing comes for free, and you have to work hard at everything you've got, and everything costs money, and, you know, that costs exactly that much.
Yeah.
And is sort of, if you want to do things, sure, if I never wanted to work, I don't know quite what situation I would be in now, but it was never a question that I wouldn't have some sort of job or career. I suppose it's, you know, no one's ever been pressured into any field that they've gone into, on any of our cousins or anything, but we've always been encouraged to do what we want to do. And I think just growing up in probably Australia in so many mixed cultures and things like that, it was just, okay, well, you go and you get a job or get a career, or you know, or you have a family or something like that, but you don't sit and do nothing. And that's basically, I suppose, where I'm at. You can't do nothing. It just
parent,
doesn't work.
I mean, I'm not a parent, but I'm sure Jim thinks, and John thinks, and George thinks, and my sister and Con think that they've got property interests. In our case, it's property interests. It might be another family that had big retail interests, or they were a manufacturer or something like that. But ours are property interests. Compared with the average guy who's been a career person, might be a lawyer and hasn't particularly worried about accumulating property, might have a few shares, or it's got his house. well, he's not tuned into saying, well, you know, my kid's fit to take over the running and the management of the family affairs. Whereas because our family's got commercial interests, it's prominent in the mind of John and Jim, for example, to say, well, you know, how are we going to look after our affairs after we're getting too old, and obviously after we're gone. So, although they haven't said to Leo or John hasn't said to his kids, oh, well, you've got to go and become an accountant, or you've got to become this or become that, just by way of the general tone of conversation around the breakfast table or the dining room table, there's an expectation that you've got to be, you know, you've got to understand that you're going to assume some responsibilities down the track. You know, if it's not there, you don't have to address the problem. It's not a problem, but address the issue, call it an issue. So that, even if it's subliminal, there's a lesson being sort of taught each day about, oh yeah, this tenant and that bloke and that property and this house and the rest of it.
And importantly, sticking together as a family and keeping everything as a whole, rather than dividing up and, well, you take your bit and I'll take my bit. It's got to stay together so that, you know, all the grandchildren can go through good schooling and be educated and, you know, do their travel overseas and things like that. And that's what it's for. Like, you've got to look after yourself for your day-to-day interests, but for sort of everyone to prosper from this age and things like that, it's a family trust that's been set up, I suppose, and it's going to have to continue for, you know, our kids and then their kids, and hopefully we'll grow and just continue like that.
And who set that up?
The brothers. Well, it started from your young couple.
Well, from mum and dad.
Yep.
And then it's we've carried that on, these structures that are suitable vehicles for managing our affairs. There's this notion of being custodian of the estate as it passes through your hands, you know. But more and more we're not driven by it. It's not this thing, oh, well, you know, all these things are precious and you just sacrifice all the rest of your interests and your lifestyle just to preserve the, you know, in pursuit of the mighty dollar. There's in my case, I'm saying to myself, well, I'm going to take it a bit easier here, do a bit more travelling or whatever. But still, you can accommodate both if you're sensible about it. But what Leah said is right. I mean, there's no feeling amongst individual members of the family to say, well, I want my bit and I want to run off and, you know, do my thing. Right? There's an understanding of this concept of, you know, it's a bit of a cliche, but unity is strength, and let the whole prosper, and it will prosper better than the sum of the parts, you know. It's a better thing to have the whole sort of rolling along, and everybody has got a responsibility in the sense to do a bit their own thing and meet some of their own responsibilities out of their own effort. And there's this sort of overriding thing that looks after, at the end of the day, everybody will get a good education out of it, and nobody's going to be particularly stressed for want of not money. I don't want to call it money, but just want of security. Yeah.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it's a long story. It stretches back a few years.
Ah, really, yes.
Yeah, good, man. We'll be back. Part 2 will be screened.
Look, can all children's mothers please come to the...
Oh, who's that?
Mothers?
Who's that?
And who's this one?
Oh, who's that? Is that...
Oh, Danny.
Excuse
She stuck one in the other, then she...
yourself. Just sit there and behave yourself.
Legs forward, that's the way. Yes, Mummy, Naomi. Sit, Brock. Darling.
What's happening? Who are these people?
Sit on the floor.
That's Brock and
Okay, come on.
Peter. And that's Naomi. That's Steve.
I'll just hold you until the very last second.
No, he admitted it.
Yeah, I know. He was taking the blame.
And that's why he got off, because he was honest.
No, I think they're all there.
There's nothing better.
Are you watching? Are you watching? Look what this man. Look in here. Who's that? Is that you? And is that Yaya?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well sit down and we'll have your photo. Look, the man, you're in the photograph.
Okay, we're ready. We'll take positions.
We'll have backside leg
No, just move. Who knows how to sing Twinkle, Twinkle?
Okay, let's sing some songs.
Twinkle star, how I wonder what you are. Like a diamond in the sky.
Oh, it's all right.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Take shots, take it.
Another song?
Okay, our director's work.
The water spout. Down came the rain and washed Quincy out. You're in my photograph. Came the sunshine and dried away the rain.
Good boy. That's good.
Jamie looks like she's scared.
Ready?
Have you any more? One for the master, one for the
Okay, all the adults get behind. Come on.
Come on, quick.
Come on, Ella.
Stay.
We're going to get Mummy the photo with us now. It's boring, isn't it, Ron? I feel sorry for you. We should have done this at the beginning.
Come on, buddy.
Emmanuel, would you like me to close the phone?
No, that's okay.
Turn around and face the camera.
Come on, Jack.
Come on, you've got to go in. Just keep it going. Happy birthday.
Come on, Jim. To you. Jim.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Yaz. Happy birthday to you. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
Hey, now hold on. Who is?
Come on, Jim.
Ella.
Come on.
Oh, battle of the video man.
Who is?
What's it called?
Jim, come around next to this. Oh, you're right. Oh, yes, here we go. All right, now, Jim,
Why, Jamie?
She look at me all the time.
Can you say, this is my family?
This is my family.
I'm done. No, just one more.
I don't have time for just one more.
Just one more. Oh, that's it.
Peter, stay there. Very good. Oh, no, this is
Thank you
gonna be
very much, everybody.
Thank you.
No, that's good. Can stay there.
Peter.
Look at you. Goodbye, everyone. It was lovely to see you.
Why is it so wet? I almost just said
Hold it.
It's just dribble. Oh, I think oh, it smells like blue cheese.
Oh, oh dear. What happened to that?
Yeah.
Sorry? Mine are going to come down on the couch.
25 years. And smile.
Did you tell the camera here, Dean and Zoe? How old is he? Yeah.
9.
ακριβώς. Το κυριότερο. Και πάμε. Γεια σου Ντίνα.
Bye-bye, dear.
Γεια σας, καλησπέρα όλοι. Τι κάνει η μαμά σου, καλά είναι?
Ναι, είναι στην Ελλάδα.
I will.
Οκ. Φίλησε τα εγγόνια σου. Σκέφτομαι.
Τα φιλάω, θέλω.
Το ξέρω από εμάς. Αλλά πού με ξέρουν, αφού δεν με ξέρουν, αλλά δεν πειράζει. Πες στα κορίτσια άλλο. Λοιπόν,
Next time you're in
είναι
Greece,
λέγεται.
you have to organize yourself.
Αφού ήξερες τώρα πώς τι
Greek epic.
Byzantine, isn't it?
Byzantine, that's right, Byzantine. It's a Byzantine.
So where'd you get it from? Oh, I don't know. I had it.
Keep it sharp. Put over onto me more than anybody else, please, Daniel. That's me when I was a young bloke, about 21 or so. It's probably a month before I played against the All Blacks. Yeah.
You must have been the first Greek to play against the All Blacks,
I was the only Greek to play against the All Blacks. Come into the study and I'll show you the photo of when I played against the All Blacks. I mean, this is fact, stranger than fiction.
Is there any other Greeks who followed your tradition?
You follow me, Manuel. I'll tell you the story.
Oh no, not another story.
Here comes the...
You keep saying, put on the video again, Dales. No, not that part.
I want to acknowledge some of my trophies.
Question?
This is a trophy. Sigasiga Pidney photographers.
Who's paying the bill?
That's when I won the 800 metres at a thingo. And this is my Eastern Suburbs 1960 most outstanding player in the club. This is the acknowledgement I got for playing 100 first grade games for Eastern Suburbs. And this is a trophy I won when I was 6'7". Now looking at me now, you may find that incredible, but the fact I did weigh once 6'7", and that was at the Country Rugby League. Would you believe that was league? As a schoolboy I played league, and that was at the Group 8 Schoolboys Carnival, won by John Lataris anyway. So that be it. But over here, oh, I'm sorry. We have a photo of when I played against the All Blacks. I was 18 years of age and I played on the wing for the ACT, and that's me there, number 5. And that's when the numbering was different.
What did your father think of that?
Oh, my dad was very proud, and obviously mum. And I played against the Japanese also, but I don't have a photo of that, but mum and dad came to that particular game. And this is the All Black winger I marked, called, his name was Russell Watt. And I believe today that whenever he hears Canberra and Manuka Oval, he's traumatised. And they put him in a clinic for a week or two to bring him around. And that's the game I played there. This is with Tim Fisher, with Quilla and I. We met Tim Fisher, the Governor General, when I was President of the Chamber of Commerce. We went out to Government House and had a meeting with the Governor General. So that's just a little trivia, if I can say.
Not your cow up there, the cow, bull, ram.
And that's a ram. That's a ram.
It's not yours?
Yeah, he was bred out of the property.
Yeah? Did he win an award?
Yeah, that's the first ram that we bred that won an award. And we've won subsequent awards, but he was the first one.
Cambridgeshire?
No, that was at, I think that may have been at Gundagai or Goulburn. I think that was at Goulburn.
And what about the eagle?
The eagle, I shot that eagle out at the farm, out on the property. He had killed a number of young lambs, and I thought the best thing to do was to shoot him. As sad as I was that had to happen, but he's only a young bird, and you can see from the plumage, the light coloured plumage shows that he's a young bird, because as they get older, the plumage becomes dark brown, black. So that's that. Dean, watch out, you'll swoop down and take your eyes out.
Yeah, it would. Is it real? No.
Thank you for that, Manuel.
To Harry now. There he is. There's Harry. We're going to send this to Harry.
Oh, we're going to send it to Harry. Well, Harry, all I want to say, son, is it's very unfortunate you weren't here today.
Still talking.
No, he's asking me about Harry, and I'm sending a message to Harry. If your mother said it, Harry, she said it all, as usual. What's left for me to say, other than it's a shame that you weren't here today on this family day to have been with us to celebrate Yaz 90th birthday. But anyway, Manuel, our photographer here, he's got some very technical things, and what we can do is when you come back home, he'll take a photo and he'll put you in somewhere in the crowd in the background.
Still going?
I'm talking about my son. Thanks. That's
I got 150 bottles for you next year.
150 bottles. I only want 50.
Well, we will drink the 100, leave the 50 for me.
So this is the true Greek of the family?
Yeah, unfortunately, because I'm in-law. That's the trouble with them.
It's the same, isn't it?
No, it's
You've been
not.
for how long?
Them,
With them.
for the last, 41 years.
41.
Too long, isn't it? Don't you think?
It's good. 40 years. 40 years, eh? So it's a good
41
family.
is. Peter is 40.
You chose very well.
Did I?
Tell him.
You ask me next day.
The next day, I think
Tomorrow.
you chose very well.
No.
You didn't chose very well.
No.
This is your son? Is this your son?
Yes, he is my son.
Who's your son?
He's the best one. The only one.
I was 22 when he was born.
You're a bloody bastard, you are.
Were you born 1960? 61. 61, a year after George. I didn't know that.
We had record rains in 61, you know.
You must have.
Is that the year you scored the most tries?
You must have Carperi.
61.
She done it before we got married.
No,
Don't say that.
Peter, I
At
scored
least he
15
knows
tries.
me. He doesn't know you.
Manuel, I scored 15 tries in 1961. And I kicked, 12 goals, wasn't it?
What was that?
I scored 15 tries and kicked, 27
Who
goals.
remembers how many tries he scored in 61?
61.
Well, you tell him.
He was in Greece.
Because you tell him.
60.
Who used to score the most tries for East?
Sorry.
What did I say?
Sorry, what was that?
What was that? What? John.
What was the answer to the question? John's question?
Yes, probably.
Probably. Not definitely.
Well, I can't remember that. For 40 years ago, he scored a lot, I know
I
that.
used to play breakaway.
Oh, breakaway.
So I,
But you used to play wing
if
and
there was
centre.
any, you know when they used to crash over the line and there'd be everybody there in the big ball and they wouldn't know who scored. John scored that. It was sort of a shoe.
You pay up the bloody referee, did you?
One day, he wasn't even in the ruck.
Give him $5. £5.
That was it.
Anyway.
It wasn't 61. 60. You were in Greece in 61. 60's got, he's got 1 year out. 61 year in Greece.
Well, in 1960 I was the club's most outstanding player. As evidenced by that trophy.
But how many years you in Europe?
3.
61, 62, 63.
No, 62, 63, 65. I came back 65.
What are you doing there? You're working there, where are you?
I was in Europe for 3 years.
He was there with Thea Vretula on the back veranda at Cyril. They got the
I
photos.
met Thea Vretula in Chirigo, and she used to call me the Kakomiro. Ah, to Kakomiro.
You can see it.
Yeah, the
John sent back this photo. He's all the time with his arm around Thea Vretula. Cyril.
Did she ever show you the parchment deeds under her bed?
No, I never saw
Yeah,
that.
well, she showed, I mean, probably because we were directly related from her father. Before we each got a chance to see her, right? Before we left, without saying anything, she'd say, hello, well, it's the Ixocachi. I said, right, there, get those on. She'd pull out this old parchment deeds, you know, written on this sort of leather.
Yeah.
And they were the deed of the Horafia. She'd say, see that stuff of Horafia? The casa met my fish at the
Jesus Christ,
Horafia, you know, she bent on it, not, you know, giving it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Dad
Theobald
was
as
the
well.
opposite. He used
And
to
every
say-
time I'd walk in there,
She was in the Babacarrica, was she?
Yeah, she was living in the regional home.
Regional
in the Camarada, yeah.
virtually blind.
Yeah, that's it.
Who am I?
I saw her before that. So I saw her in
She was
63.
very frail.
Who am I?
Very frail, thin as anything.
Babu Costa. Babu Costa come from Greece.
He always used to try to sort
All the way from Greece to see Costantino Caruso. Come on, give me a cuddle. Give me a cuddle. Yeah, big boy. Up. Don't push me. Yay.
Lost you.
What happened?
Put that on me.
You did.
No, you did it.
And we were looking for the Nataris.
Nice cigar.
Oh, beautiful.
No pizza.
Okay, what if all three of us hold hands? And Zoe and Mary. Peter, Zoe, Mary. There we go around. Okay. Mary, Peter, Zoe, and Dee. Oh, we're running out of room now. Back. Oh, this isn't working. We don't have enough room.
No, we go outside.
Yeah, let's do it outside.
No, I'm talking about.
No, it's okay. It's good enough.
My car. Yeah.
Sorry, hi. Certainly what?
Had something with this family, haven't you?
I'm not a new Gabro, I'm a 8.5-year-old Gabro now.
Good boy, that is.
He sounds like he's counting the days.
You're taking the car now.
I count every day that I've been blessed to join the family.
Say that again.
Said I count every day that I've been blessed since I've joined the family.
I thank the good Lord.
Did Mr. Sexual?
Catholo. No.
Well, you said blessed, so it takes
Your
that.
surname is
He meant it. That's a
Stefanidakis is the Greek name. It's been turned into Stevens. Yeah, so Stefanidakis. Yeah.
it's added to the Nataris, it's added new meaning to the Nataris.
Yeah, well, outside of the Kitherian and blood, we moved outside of the Kitherian circles the first time ever. I think my mother-in-law said that she welcomed some new bloodlines coming into the family.
You've got to have new bloodlines. Right with vigor.
Oh, well, I mean, I suppose I've only seen her on, I think, a grandchild or a grandchild-in-law in particular, only has had the benefit of the nice occasions, so I haven't been reprimanded. I suppose I came into the family almost at the age of 30, and you know, she's a person that's set in her ways and has her opinions, which is fantastic, and it's nice to hear what their opinions are and what their experiences are, more importantly. I think experiences are more important than opinions, and I think that we can all learn and value or gain a lot from people's experiences. There's a lot of people that can offer you opinions. I'm sure she would. I'm sure she would. I'm sure she wouldn't hold back. I hope I haven't given her a reason to do so. But no, I take on board anything that she might have to say, and she has said a few things in my time in the family that I've sort of kept in the back of my mind and definitely thought about. I won't tell you what those things were, but they had to do with my business, in fact, and it's nice to have the wisdom of someone that's been around for so long. So, yeah.
Gestures
Relevant?
the whole time, and the devil
Yep.
So you
came.
in your business, you know
And
what
when
Yep,
the devil
definitely.
comes,
Yep,
you
yep,
see,
yep.
it's in the coming.
I suppose it's relevant and then asserting
There's absolutely nothing
other
to handle.
people's opinions and experiences again. And it's nice to hear it from another source as well, and obviously my wife's grandmother.
As for Benny,
She's
his daughter the other night.
definitely someone that adds a lot of colour to this family, and is an integral part of this family. I don't think, in fact, when I first came into this family, both my mother-in-law's parents and Eleni were a very, very significant part of and an integral part of what I consider I married into, and it was an honour to have known them. And
Put up your
yeah.
hand if you're feeling better, and the camera go to the audience.
Hot water for lemon.
That's your ugly against me.
I reckon what I've just did.
If you've got 10,000 in for it, 10,000 to start another
We're playing hide and go seek. I've just been told to fluff up my hair by my mother.
Say hello to Harry.
Hi, Harry. We miss you. You want to say hi to your cousin Harry? Hello, Harry. Even though we speak to you like every day.
What? What do you want?
That's not.
Amateurs. You're dealing with amateurs, girls.
Are they still
Forget
over
it.
there?
You can make as much
He
noise
gave
as
us,
possible.
like, we made-
I'm